The read to not read ratio here is really throwing me under the bus. It's not looking good for me. Be honest. Do I look like I haven't slept in 36 hours? This isn't mascara under my eyes. Hi! I'm really loud. I'm Jessie, and I like books. But despite that, last year I only read 4. So while everyone else was doing their every book I read in 2023, I will not be participating because that would be a very, very short video. I could still make it, but I feel like it would be like 4 minutes long. So instead of that, I thought that I would instead expose myself by doing every book I bought in 2023, how much I spent on it, and whether I have read it or not. I'm including how much I paid for it, not because I spent a ridiculous amount of money on books this year, but because I actually didn't spend that much. And the price of these books is going to blow your mind. You can fill your bookshelf ethically without emptying your bank account. By going to local secondhand bookstores, or to buy through a secondhand book website, or visiting thrift stores. There's tons of great books in places like these. It's not just old books that nobody wants to read. All of my books that I bought this year, save for 4 of them, were used. I got them from second-hand retailers. So I have all of my books that I bought over here in little piles organized by their genre, and we'll just go on through. And I'm not going to say how many I have right now. We'll just tally it up at the end. And we'll also tally up how much I spent total this year. Well, last year. So first, we're going to dive into the classics, because why not? First, Little Women. What a classic. Beautiful little book. This is one of the ones that is not used. I got this at a local bookstore in Colorado Springs while I was visiting a friend. I paid $5.95 for this. And I have read this, just not this specific edition. I bought it because I don't have a Little Women book of my own any longer. I think my sister took it when she moved out, which is sad because it was a copy from like the 90s. So, but this one's really pretty and I'm excited to read it. Even though I made the mistake of I didn't look through this book before I bought it. I just looked at the cover and I went, ooh, pretty, take my money. And then I opened it for the first time like a month ago, and I don't know if you can see this, but that font is so small and it's so crammed close together. That's a nightmare for my eyes. I am going to have a grand old time trying to read this. I will, though, because I bought it. I'm reading it. On to the next one. Pride and Prejudice. I bought this at the same bookstore that I bought Little Women from, and this was also $5.95. And yes, I have read this. I read this back when I was a senior in high school for my British literature class, and I hated it. You're probably wondering, why the heck did you buy it then? Well, because I was a very different person my senior year of high school. I didn't even like boys yet. I thought romance was the most disgusting thing in the world. I like boys now. I understand. And while I may still not like romance books themselves, I decided to give this one another shot. And if I don't like it, that's fine, because this is my sister's favorite book and I can just give it to her. No harm, no foul. This may be enemies to lovers, but this is second chance lovers. Next, we have Sense and Sensibility. Are we sensing a pattern? I got this from, you guessed it, the same bookshop in Colorado Springs, and you guessed it again, I paid $5.95 for it. This is one I actually haven't read. My friend who I was there with told me I would like it, so I bought it. Because, well, look, they match. I couldn't not. Yes, I fell into the matching editions, okay? Leave me alone. It won't happen again. And my sister also likes that book. So if I don't like it, I can give it to her too. And she will then have the matching editions. Surprise, surprise, another Jane Austen. I was just on a Jane Austen spree this year. I went from owning none of her books to 3. I bought Emma from my local family-owned secondhand bookshop. I paid $2 for her. I have never read this, but I bought it because it's just so pretty. And it was only $2, and I thought, I have no idea when I'm ever going to see this edition again. And if I do, it's probably going to be like $20. So if I don't like this book, I know 2 people off the top of my head who do, and I can just give it to them, and they will have a beautiful edition of Emma. No harm, no foul. We have finally moved on from Jane Austen. We are now moving on to Lois Lowry. I probably butchered that name. The Giver. I bought this from the same secondhand bookstore, and I paid $2 for it as well. I do not know if I've ever read this. I know the plot because I know I've seen the movie, but I have like a little bit of memory of starting to read this. I don't think I ever finished it, but I like the movie a lot, so I'm assuming I'm going to like the book. And if not, my dad loves this book, so he can have it. Moving on to our last classic. This is one that I've been trying to get my hands on for 2 years. That is The Great Gatsby. And I paid $5.14 for it. Obviously, by the fact that I've been trying to get my hands on it for years, I have read this. I love this book. It is one of my favorite books of all time. And I only read it for the first time 2 years ago. I can't believe that I've been missing out on it. Those are all the classics. Moving on to dark academia, my favorite genre. First on the pile is The Maidens. I paid $5.57 for this. That's tax not included. I just finished reading it last week. I started reading it over a year ago, but it was a library book and I couldn't renew it because it was so new. And I just never checked it out again. I couldn't find it at my local library. So I just went ahead and bought it. Oh my goodness, I loved it. Like, I could make a whole video on just this book. And I probably will. We have the Bellwether Revivals. I paid $5.26 for this. I have not read it, but I am 95% certain I will like it. I've had it recommended to me by multiple people, and it's dark academia. And I have not read a single dark academia book so far that I didn't like. Wait, no, that's a lie. The Long Black Veil. I hated that. Next we have The Truants. This is the last book that I bought this year that was not used. It actually has a hilarious story to go with it. So the thrift book site was having a Black Friday sale, and I'd been wanting to read this book for a little bit, and I had it in my cart along with other books. Like, I had The Maidens and the Bellwether Revivals in there with it. It was $5.14 on the site. And I hesitated checking out. And I was like, I'll just do it later in the afternoon. And then I went out shopping with my cousin. We went to the Dollar Tree, and I was looking at the books in the Dollar Tree. And I was commenting to my cousin how sad it must be for authors to spend all of those hours on a book just to have it do so poorly that it ends up at Dollar Tree. Not 2 seconds later, I went, oh my goodness, it's The Truants. I've been wanting to read that. I have that in my cart. It was a very humbling experience because I am now in the classification of people who read Dollar Tree books. So yeah, I paid $1.25, probably $1.35 for this. I have read this. I loved it. Last on our dark academia list, we have Black Chalk. This was bought at the same time as all of the other dark academia books. I paid $5.14 for this. and I have not read it yet. However, it is on my up next list. I'm waiting to read it because I have a couple books I need to finish, and so does my friend, and that's important because we're both reading this. So, that is all of the Dark Academia. Now we will move on to fantasy and science fiction. Now, I know that I mentioned in my first video that I don't like a lot of fantasy very much, but I saw this book at the bookstore and I read the blurb and I was like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. And it was mainly the title that stood out to me. I was like, I need that on my bookshelf. So, royal, I don't like to say that word. I think it's hilarious. It means it in the most literal sense of illegitimate children. I paid $3 for this. I have not gotten around to reading it. I keep meaning to. That was the only fantasy book I bought this year. And then I bought one science fiction, and that is The Doomsday Equation. I got this from my local secondhand bookstore. I paid $2 for it. And I have not read it, but it is also on my up next because it is another buddy read that I'm doing with the same friend. We're reading 4 books together, 2 that are her choice of genres that I don't typically read, and then 2 that are my choice of genres she doesn't typically read. This is getting read in the very near future, and I am excited for that. Now on to coming of age fiction. Why are these wrapped around my bookshelf? First one is The Spectacular Now. Secondhand bookstore. I paid $2 for it. If you're noticing a pattern of the prices of the books that I bought from my secondhand bookstore, they are priced based on paperback or hardcover, and it's just across the board. That's the price. So $2 for paperbacks. But this felt like fate. I had to buy this book because my friend recommended the movie to me, and I loved it. And not a week later, I went to the bookstore for the first time. It was my first time going to that secondhand bookstore, and I was perusing the shelves, and I saw this, and it was the only one there. And I was like, oh my goodness. It's destiny. I have to get this. I bought it, and I read it in 2.5 days, and then I loaned it to my friend so she could read it, because this is one of her favorite movies, but she'd never read the book. But now it is back in my hands. Next in our coming-of-age fiction, we have the iconic Perks of Being a Wallflower. I have wanted to read this for years. I've never seen the movie. I don't know why. I just haven't watched it. I paid $5.14 for this. I am currently reading it. Can you see the stack of books that I'm stacking in the video? I have no idea. I'm looking at my phone camera. For all I know, it could not be recording anymore, and I could have been doing all of this for naught. You know what? Now I'm paranoid. I'm gonna check. So next we have the sole historical fiction book I bought this year, and that is the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Society. I bought this because I love the movie so freaking much, and I needed to read the book, and no library has it, so I just had to go ahead and buy it. I paid $5.14 for this. I have not read this yet. The read to not read ratio here is really throwing me under the bus. It's not looking good for me. Remember, I only read 4 books last year. This theme is going to continue. Alright, so, historical fiction, that's the one historical fiction. Now on to plays. I bought 1 play last year, and that is Don't Take My Penny. I got this for $2. I bought it solely because of how old it is. It is from 1962, and it has notes from the original actress, the original owner of this script, stage notes and her blocking. So, I haven't read it. Surprise, surprise. Moving on. We have moved into our last section of fiction, and that is the section that is semi-fiction, semi-not. I'm just going to do all 3 of these at once. You can probably see them on my lap right now. I don't know. So, first up, Egyptology. Paid $3 for it. Have not read it. Perused it. It's this. It's really cool. Mythology. $3. Haven't read it. Have looked through it. Wizardology, $3. Haven't read it. Have looked through it. That is all the fiction books that I bought this year. We're down to the final 5 books. Moving into poetry collections. First up is Arrow Book of Poetry. This is another book that I bought solely because of how old it is. It's really old. It's worn. Whoever had this really loved it. I paid $2 for this, and I have not read it all the way. I've read a few of the poems, but I'm one of those people who I don't like to read poetry collections all in one sitting. I don't think that poetry is meant to be devoured. I think that it's meant to be savored. So, I like to read it in bursts. The second poetry book I bought is Always a Springtime, Poems of Hope and Renewal. I bought this because I'm a little bit of a Debbie Downer sometimes, and so Poems of Hope and Renewal sounded really good to me. So, and I paid $2 for this as well, and look at those beautiful illustrations. Second to last category, history books. These are 2 that I bought from a thrift store. First up, The Tudors. It was 58 cents. I have read a little bit of this book. It's not really a sit down and read to finish kind of book. It's a read to find stuff out about the Tudors. And then we have Italian paintings. I paid 78 cents for this, and just like the Tudors book, I use it more of a reference book than a book to sit down and devour. It has a lot of black and white images of the paintings that it discusses in the book, so it's really cool. I like it. I'm really into art history. The last book that I bought in 2023, Digital Performance. I bought it for school. I spent way too much on it, and I didn't read it. How many pages is this? This is over 600 pages. That is all of the books that I bought in 2023. If you were not keeping track, that is 25 books. 24 bought willingly. So you don't have to add all of the numbers up. I have done it for you, tax included. Altogether, on all of the books I bought in 2023, this obviously not included. This is just a joke. I spent $80. And I think I'm set for a little bit. I don't think I need to buy really any this year. I think I need to get through these first, and then I'll let myself buy some more. I don't know if 24 books in a year is a lot or not. It's a lot to me. Like, it's insane to me that I bought that many books last year. And I do not plan on buying that many this year. I plan on reading these and reading what I have on my shelf that I haven't read, which I don't think is a lot. I think I've read most of the books on my shelf. That's that. Bye, I guess.